Alright, here we go. This is level 4, mission 1 of Energize. As always, before we get started, as a way of review, for you to make sure you fully understand what this whole quest has been about. Energy exists all around us in many forms. Energy can never be created or destroyed. It is transferred from form to form and can move from one object to another. Heat energy moves from one object to another through conduction, convection, or radiation. Electrical energy is constantly moving. An electric current flows through parallel and series circuits quickly and invisibly from one place to another using conductors and insulators to produce electricity. This level 4, is on heat. During this level, you will recognize that heat flows from hot objects to cold ones, and that some materials are good conductors of heat and others are not. Mission 1 is heat versus temperature. Our mission objective is to explain the difference between heat and temperature. A lot of the times people think that they are the same thing when they are really two different things. They're related, but they are two different things. They're two different definitions. They're two different occurrences. So our challenge questions are: what is temperature? How do we measure temperature? How is heat different than temperature? And how are conductors and insulators different from each other? Let's first talk about what is temperature. But first, let's remember that all matter is made up of atoms. They are the building blocks of everything, and these atoms are always moving. All of this movement creates thermal energy. Temperature then will measure both how fast the atoms in an object are moving and how many atoms are moving. Let me repeat that. Temperature measures both how fast the atoms in an object are moving and how many atoms are moving. When an object has a high temperature, it's because the atoms inside of it are moving fast. Temperature is not a measurement of how much heat an object has. It is the measurement of how fast the atoms in an object are moving and how many atoms in that object are moving. How do we measure temperature? We use thermometers. The inside of a thermometer contains mercury or some other liquid that rises and falls depending on the temperature. Nowadays, they use some other liquid rather than mercury because mercury can be pretty dangerous to the human body if it's out and they are exposed to it. So usually now they use some other liquid. When they first started using thermometers, they used mercury, but not so much anymore. Thermometers are based on the idea that matter expands when its atoms move faster and contracts when its atoms slow down. This causes that liquid to rise or fall depending on if the temperature is increased or decreased. The thermometer must be on or in whatever it's measuring or it won't work correctly. So if you're trying to measure a glass of water, the thermometer needs to be in that glass of water. It can't be away from it. If you're trying to measure the temperature outside, the thermometer needs to be outside, not inside. Let's talk about heat now. Thermal energy flows from something warm to something cool. It always flows from something warm to something cool. Heat is the transfer of thermal energy between matter of different temperatures. Heat is the transfer of thermal energy between matter of different temperatures. A heat source is anything that gives off energy that particulars of matter can take in. Heat is transferred through 3 different methods, which we'll talk about next mission: conduction, convection, and radiation. So heat is the transfer of energy from something warm to something cool. It always goes from hot to cold. Conductors and insulators. We've talked about conductors and insulators before when we talked about electricity. They really work the same way in temperature, except when we're dealing with heat and temperature, we're dealing with heat and temperature instead of electricity. So conductors are objects that allow heat to pass through it easily. Just like with electricity, most metals are good conductors of heat. And heat doesn't pass through easily through insulators. So things like rubber or cork or anything like that, it won't pass through easily, just like with electricity. Are you ready for the checkpoint? Be sure to watch the videos that follow this to make sure that you are really ready. They do a better job of explaining things. You get to see things, so don't skip those. I will see you in mission 2.